First of all, we do applaud the governor for coming out and talking about some very important things. We do realize that he has faced some problems, but we also don't want to lose the fact that Governor Shumlin is directly responsible for these facts. The point that we're in today, the place we're in financially, was caused by the legislative process over the last few years and the historic veto override of the Governor Douglas's budget back in 2008. So we don't want to hear that he's being dealt with a bad hand. This is a hand that Governor Shumlin had an active role in over the last few years in the legislature. Some of the other things that we've heard is that there's been a lot of cuts. Well, there's been cuts, but the spending, annual spending in Vermont has increased over the last few years, not decreased. So there may be specific cuts, but we're looking for some more cuts. So again, we support the governor and glad that he's willing to limit increasing taxes. We heard him use that word tax capacity again. We're going to make sure that we can stick to that and that we don't see any increase in taxes. The other issue that really rings loud with us, and we've worked hard on over the years, is expanding broadband. We are very supportive of broadband. We want to work together to get this thing done in the next few years.
I think the governor's approach to education, by and large, is very responsible. It picked up replacing ERA funds that were committed to the Ed Fund. It picked up the commitments to the retirement system and prepares us to move into 12. However, while doing that, he has left as a local challenge, perhaps where it should be left, the raising of $23 million, the reduction of our budgets by $23 million. Failing the local taxpayers, local school boards, failing to meet that requirement will result in an increase in taxes of about 2.3 cents. So I think responsible moves and a challenge to us, failing that, we will result in a tax increase, which we really have to work hard to avoid.
One thing that stood out was rolling Catamount Health into VHAP. Catamount Health is in trouble, and that's why it's being rolled into VHAP, and I'm not quite sure what that means. What I want to mention is that when Catamount Health was in front of the legislature and being proposed and voted on, Republicans, including myself, stood up and pointed out that it was likely to be unsustainable, that it was being propped up initially with temporary revenues, and that the future of it was very tenuous. It has proven, in fact, to be unsustainable and basically a failure. The lesson from that is that as we look at healthcare reform for the entire system, we need to be very careful that we get the facts right, that we verify the estimates that Dr. Shao and others have made, and that we don't make a mistake, as we made in Catamount, that we create a system that is unsustainable and we have a $5 billion mistake on our hands. The second thing that I heard that disturbs me quite a bit is a $4.6 million cut in mental health services that have already sustained cuts over the last several years. We're dealing with people's lives, and we need to be very careful. I hear the governor saying that he wants to provide full funding for the Housing and Conservation Land Trust. I ask what's more important, people's lives and preserving their mental health, or buying land for conservation. That's a good thing to do, but when you have tough choices to make, you have to balance people's lives against things like purchasing land for conservation.
So let me summarize. We think the governor had some good ideas. The budget appears to be balanced, which is a good thing. But we're concerned. Catamount Health has failed. We talked about that. We knew it. We brought it up last week. We're concerned about that. Is rolling that into VHAP really financially going to be feasible or not? Using one-time dollars. There's $27 million of one-time money used to prop this budget up. We've been doing that for the last 3 years. And that's depicted in this budget presentation form that I'd be happy to share with any of you. It shows how we've balanced our budget in Vermont. All these federal dollars here have kept us from going bankrupt. If we do this and use this one-time money again, we're still looking at a $35 million deficit in FY13. That doesn't solve our problem. And removing the pre-K cap without funding in the budget amounts to empty promises. So we're concerned about these things. We want to make sure that Vermonters are aware of it, and we're going to continue to talk about these things. So thank you very much for coming today. We appreciate you being here, and if you have questions, we'd be happy to take them.